Hey guys, welcome back to the Insite channel, and today we have Barry in the Crosshair, an individual who has been around Counter-Strike for, I'm pretty sure, as long as I've been alive, or minus a few years. He's a legend of the Danish Counter-Strike scene, and I think most recently a lot of people will know you from coaching in Sprouts and some of the success you had there. But before we go any further, how are you doing today? How's life as a full-time streamer?
I'm doing good. It's a lot of fun to be streaming. Didn't really have the time before, so I'm enjoying the moment. Enjoying the like to talk to the fans, to talk to my friends on the stream.
Sounds really cool. And so, firstly, I just want to talk about Sprouts and the kind of explosion that out of nowhere Sprout they just closed down. So I know you guys had little to no warning. What was that for you mentally? Because I can imagine it was quite difficult building a roster and then just out of nowhere everything just poof.
It was very. I actually had plans like staying in Sprout for a long time. It came out of nowhere. We got told on the day, like I think 1.5 hours before, we got told you need to find something else. So it was very chaotic. It was very, what am I gonna do now? With the roster, it was. I think it's set like you use like some time to build a new roster, then it's just yeah, it's just over. And what it could have been is like you always think about this, but yeah, it's just yeah.
But
There's not too much to
yeah.
add to it.
Yeah. What were some of the plans? You said that you kind of had plans to stay in Sprout for longer. What were those plans?
I was about to do a new contract. I was about to resign.
Mm.
We were planning a lot of stuff like building a new lineup, like we did so many times. So yeah, I was planning to resign with them, staying there. It was always nice to be in Sprout. It was like a little family we had there.
Mm. Yeah. And so now that you've actually had, because it's been a while. It's been like a month, I think, give or take. Obviously, the timeline's quite hard in esports to follow everything. But
Yeah,
what has it been like for you just taking a step back for a second and reevaluating everything and just having that time to think about like your experience as a coach?
it's been very weird. We were kind of playing every day in Sprout. It's not many
Mm.
off days we had. So not waking up doing something like with no plans is a little bit weird. But I would say it's actually been nice. It's actually been good to reflect a little bit on what we did in Sprout, like the good times and the bad times. I think it's a lot easier to see what you did good and what you did wrong. Like when you have the extra time to think about it. It was a little bit hard sometimes because of the pressure, because of um, like the success you had before, the failures you had before. You always
Mm.
like thought you could replicate them. I think it's the time off has been very good. I've been thinking about a lot about what we were doing in Sprout. Learned a lot just about everything just from thinking.
Yeah. And so I know it can be very difficult to stay as a roster when you don't have an organization. But was there ever a world that like ex Sprout roster would have continued looking for an org?
No, because Potty was on loan, and
Yeah.
he instantly went back to Ins Academy.
Mm.
We played some games after, but it was just because we agreed to finish some tournaments, so everybody could until people got offers, so we could actually give people a chance to find a new home.
Yeah.
But everybody got offers kind of fast. Like I don't think anybody is signed at the moment, but I know that a lot of the guys are practicing. So no, that was not really like because we already needed a player from the start, and also people also wanted to see the players wanted to see what was out there for them.
Mm.
But I was, I think everybody, if there was a possibility, everybody was open, but it didn't make sense at the time.
Okay. And so looking at what you would maybe want to do next, you've had in Sprout, a lot of it has been, I think, fair to say, working with younger players. You've been working with whatever comes at you. Is there a perspective that you want to go and join a team now that's maybe a little bit more secure, or are you still happy to work with younger players?
I'm honestly happy to do both.
Mm.
I really liked the job I had in Sprout. I really liked bringing people up, giving people how to say like a career maybe, like give
Yeah.
them a place in esport. I would say I even did this my whole time in CS in Go.
Mm.
I was a lot in the Danish scene where we also actually like where I did the same stuff kinda, but like on a lower level. But like I was also happy when I joined Sprout in the first place to working with players like Speedy and Slex that has a lot more experience. It's different, but yeah, I like both, and I think obviously like if you want to reach something faster, you have to go for the more the players with the more experience. But yeah.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that you say that you like that because especially on Sprout, I could imagine it was quite hard having to rebuild a lot and put players in structures constantly. Like you were back and forth with players a lot. What was that like being the coach of a team that was changing so often?
It's hard, like especially in the middle of the season. It's very hard.
Hmm.
Like you don't want to change players in the middle of the season. It always uh like you kind of have to start over in like a time you don't want to start over, and then like the results
Yeah.
is usually just going the wrong way. Obviously, sometimes you need it and you do a change that you decide yourself. But it's like I hate it and I love it because
Okay.
you like to see the guys you worked with taking the next step, and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, it's fun for me to do this. So this is why I like it. Yeah.
Mm. When you would sign a player, because like for instance, Wonderful, I think that's something I want to talk about a little bit more. But when you would sign someone like that, did you just almost have the understanding that like, okay, he probably won't be here for that long?
Yeah, we even before we signed Wonderful, we talked about okay, he's probably gonna be gone at the next major latest because we know he's gonna be he's a big scoop to sign and he's a big talent.
Mm.
And he was already showing in spirit that he was a tier one player.
Yeah.
But it's like with Wonderful, there's actually a funny story. When I joined Sprout 2.5 years ago, he was the first player we ever had a meeting with, actually, to sign. Um, and this is also why I think he came back to us. I know that he had other offers and he actually could join bigger teams, but I don't know why he chose us because I just thought he like maybe he thought it was a good step for him, and it also worked out really good for him. But yeah,
Yeah.
we knew he would go very fast, and it was
Mm.
even faster than expected when Navi came. And it was like the offer was. I'm not sure what the offer was, but like I think the offer was so big that Sprout could not say no, and that kind of ruined the whole season we had going because then we had to pick up new players. Sufan went like to heroic straight after, like maybe a week after, and then we had to pick up another player. And at that moment, we had the academy team, and we picked up two academy players, and it was yeah, it was a rough time after. Maybe not the
Mm.
best results, but like I think it was like it it's just how it was in Sprout. So you had to live with
Yeah.
it.
How do you deal with maybe like motivation with something like that when you see something you've built change and then you have to rebuild it? Like you said, you loved and you hate it. Is maybe the hate part of it a little bit like, oh, this is demotivating at times?
it is demotivating when it doesn't work out. But it's like I always had this thing that I love to take a challenge, and I love to
Mm.
try to like just build stuff. And I also see like okay, when we lost Wonderful, we picked up Slime, and I even thought, for example, okay, why can it work out with Slime? Why can Slime replace Wonderful? Like it's most likely not gonna happen, but there was like in some worlds maybe it could happen, and but yeah, it's I would say it's just there's more like the motivation to make it work than the like the demotivation for that. Okay, with Wonderful we could have been something else. The motivation is more than yeah
Mm.
the demotivation.
Yeah. Do you as your role as a coach within kind of these systems, do you think your role as a coach is maybe different to other coaches because of how like the roster changes and you're building up newer players?
Yes, I think in Sprout we always had to scout. We always had to be ready for worst case scenario. We always had to look what we can do if something is happening. We always have to work with players who maybe are demotivated because they cannot go to another place at this time. We had players
Mm.
before who was like, why can I not go now? Why can I not go now? Why all this stuff? And you have to work with this, and it's like you need to motivate them for like, okay, you just need to play these tournaments, and then we can figure it out. All this stuff.
Yeah.
So like, you kind of have to be a guy who keeps the mood up a lot,
Mm.
and make the people understand, the players understand that they are good enough. They will always get new offers, or they will always get the same offers because people know how good they are.
And I think it's interesting from the mental perspective. So obviously you came as a player, and you obviously understand Counter Strike. But was it something that you had to learn while coaching to be more of a mental person in the server, not just like an analytical person?
Um, I would say for the teams I played for, as I said before, I was always playing with younger players in the Danish scene. I
Mm,
was playing with talents, so it kind of came naturally.
mm,
Obviously had a little bit more frustration when I was playing because you are in the server,
yeah, for sure.
you are feeling what is happening on the server. So it was actually not that hard to go into coaching. There was a lot of stuff after I went into coaching. I realized, okay, I was approaching these players wrong. I was doing this stuff wrong. Again, you get the outside perspective. There was even
Mm.
stuff like I could see. We had some IGLs I could see. Okay, I actually did this wrong, and you're also doing this wrong, and now I can tell you why.
There.
So that was like I would say it was not that hard to go into coaching. It was just more. I actually just learned a lot, to be honest.
Yeah. It was actually interesting you talk about scouting because another player who you've played with who's considered like a great scout, Snappy. You played with him in like 2010 and he's like considered this amazing scout. Like is there any correlation there that you two want to play together and you both just happen to be really good scouts?
I think I don't know. We were.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I know that Snappy has a great mind for CS. I know
Mm.
that he is very smart at the game. So I don't think so. It's
Yeah.
just a coincidence, I would say.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was kind of just like a funny point. You're talking about scouting, and I was like, oh, I know someone who else is quite good at scouting. But you on Sprout kind of even maybe not in the, like the last few stages where there were a lot of those roster changes, but previously in Sprout, you guys did have some really good results. Like we did see you compete at like Kados, Colognes, ESL Challenger, this type of stuff. But most, I think, the biggest one, obviously, was when you qualified for the Rio Major. You were most likely underdogs going into the RMR. You made the Legend stage. Speaking about that tournament specifically, what did it feel like to qualify for the major, your first major, and with a team that maybe shouldn't be in the Legend stage?
It was very, I would say, it's like it was very nice, especially with this team.
Mm,
Many of the players from this team. It was some players I had played with Sufon before I joined with Flames. I had played with Staehr in Opa before I joined Sprout. Longs we picked up from Nexus. I even played with Refresh before he played in all these teams back in the days. So it was very nice with this team because it actually felt like it's guys like you were building something with for a long time. Um, and it's just I think we expected ourselves like we could qualify. We knew we were really good. We knew we had the talent. We knew we had the firepower to do this. We knew we had everything it took. So it's like I would say we were obviously very happy, but we also felt like it was something that could happen. So it was not like out of the blue.
What was your experience actually finally making majors? I know you played majors in 1.6, but kind of in Go, what was it like actually finally being in a major?
It was something you always wish you could do. I was very sad I never managed to do it as a player. But it's like it was amazing feeling. It was something. I think it's everybody's dream to go at a major. Um, so
Yeah.
it was
And
just perfect.
yeah, you mentioned they're actually playing with some of the people, a lot of people you coached, and like, there's even more names to throw in there, like raalz. You played with him for a long time. What's it like coaching players after previously playing with them?
I would say for me, it kind of feels like the same because I was always the IGL. Like
Mm,
we never really had an organization where I played with these guys, so I was always acting like the manager, the coach, the guy who does everything outside the team, making it work. So it was like there was not a big difference. It was with these guys, it was always the same. But for example, like with Refresh, it was a little bit different because he actually came from Heroic when he joined Sprout,
mm.
and he taught us a lot of stuff, how it works to be in a tier one team. So then it was different because I had to, even if I was the coach, I had to listen to him and learn from him with some stuff.
Yeah. And so even after the major, you guys as Sprout, the kind of like roster changes still continued where you had players being plucked apart. Um, why do you think it is that even after you made a major, the roster still wasn't like stable?
That was always like I think players always had a dream of going to the teams they got approached by.
Yeah.
Always there's obviously always also more prestige, more money, more tournaments. In Sprout, you can like we were never able to be partner.
Mm,
So for example, Tex there, he instantly could join Astralis and become play with device, become a partner, team, all this stuff. It's very hard to say no to, even if maybe you feel the team is better or not. But it's very hard to say no to all the stuff that comes with the joining organization like Astralis.
mm. Yeah, that does make sense. Like, it is unfortunately just like a step up, even though you played the major and then like the Katas and the clones, it's more consistent, right? But kind of after the major and beginning of like 2023 kind of period, you actually played. You seemingly were in the server so many more times than I think I've seen as a coach like ever. What was it like, rolling back the years? Did you maybe miss a little bit? It was the berry bomb as we all knew it.
No, actually, every time, sometimes you thought, okay, I'm gonna do good,
Mm.
and I'm gonna bring back the years, as you said. But every time I realized there's a reason why I'm a coach now. There's a reason why I'm not on the server and I'm trying to think about the game instead.
Mm.
So it was fun, but it was also very I can remember the worst feeling was when we were at Elisa and we played the semifinal, and then Longs got sick on first map, and I had to play the semifinal, the first map, on our own map pick. And it was T side was going okay because I could just jump and I could sacrifice and I could help with the calling. Then we come to CT side and I could not win a single duel, and I think I went 0-11 on the CT side, and we ended up losing the map. Longs he got some medicine and came back for second map. We won second map, their map pick, and then we end up losing third map. And this is like when you have experiences like this, then you just like you know that it was your mistake that we didn't win the game.
But at the same time, it was like it was understandable that you weren't gonna, come into the server and be great. But I do get what you mean. Like on the T side, you can help because you can call stuff as well, for instance. But yeah, like is there even though that is there still a little part of you that does miss competing because you did compete for so long?
Yes, there's always like when you watch the game, like you always have this feeling that you could still do it. But I just, as I said before, I just realized it's not for me to play anymore. It's for me to coach now. But I'm just like it's obviously a lot more fun to be a player because I think Counter Strike is fun and it's just it's just fun to play. There's not too much to say about it.
Yeah, and so kind of still talking about the team, and we mentioned Wonderful already, and you kind of did say it was like it hurt a little bit thinking about what we could have achieved with him. Why do you think that you didn't achieve that great results, even though you had someone like Wonderful on the roster who stats at the time on Sprout were really good?
I think we didn't get to play too many tournaments. I think we had some decent results, I would say. We just
Mm.
didn't get to play too much. Yeah, it's hard to like. It kind of ended before it started. I think
Yeah.
this roster had a lot of potential. So it's hard to say, but I would say it was
Mm.
like with the other rosters, we always had lane tournaments lined up. But when we picked up Wonderful, like the whole lineup kind of was resetting, so we didn't have any spots for any big tournaments. And it
Mm.
was also like it was the middleman, you changed to CS2, so it was also a little bit weird back then. But I think like we won some online tournaments. We won the EPL, and we cannot remember if maybe second
You
place
got
in
second, yeah.
yeah, a couple of second places in CCTs. But like obviously it's not like what the other rosters achieved, but I think it could have achieved something, but there was not like we didn't
Mm.
have the chance and we didn't have the time.
Yeah. What do you think you could have achieved for someone like Wonderful if you did have the time?
I think we had I think we had the same potential as the other rosters. It was just that we didn't get the chance. I think we could have easily qualified for a major. We could easily have uh, qualified for a Challenger League event, played in got top 4 in these events like we did with all the other rosters.
Mhm.
Something I was also very proud of with all the other rosters, except this last half year, we always reached top 20 on the HLSV, and this was also something I was pretty sure we could have done with this team,
Mm.
if we had the time.
Yeah. And so kind of winding it back a little bit of when you first joined Sprouts, what was your mentality when you first joined them? What would you wanted to achieve with the team, and did you hit that?
I think we overachieved in the start. The lineup was actually dead when I joined. They were planning to do a lot of changes when I joined.
Oh, okay.
This is why I mentioned this with Wonderful before, because they were
Mm.
planning to change actually all the German players except Faven. And then we had like 1.5 months to play the rest of the tournaments, or was it 2 months? I cannot remember. But we overachieved and we won. What was it called back? Challenger League or Premier back then, and we got invited
Mm.
for a lot of tournaments, so we had to stick with the lineup, and people were actually very happy with the lineup. Spirit was very happy. We qualified for Katowice, Cologne, the Amar. Like I cannot. That was also more tournaments. I cannot remember all of them, but
Yeah.
um, we. I was. It was everything was like a little bit of an unknown for me because it was my first English speaking team. I was not I can speak English, and it's a lot better now. But in the start, I was second guessing myself in English, how it's gonna be. How it's gonna be with these more experienced guys who doesn't know me so good when we're speaking English. Are they gonna these players gonna accept you? A lot of stuff was going through my mind, and I didn't really know what to. And I was also on a trial when I joined Sprout in the start, so but everything worked out good, and they were very happy, and yeah.
That must have been really, yeah, because something that I was really quite shocked to see was that you just never had played outside of Denmark. Like you'd only played Danish CS in teams. Like why was that?
I think I never thought about the opportunity. Actually, also thinking back on it after joining Sprout as a player, I think I could also maybe have achieved more as a player if I actually went international because I was kind of limited in the Danish scene. It was always the same, like picking up players, losing players, but maybe in international, like it could have been different. So actually thinking back at it, I don't know why I never thought it was a possibility. Maybe it was because I didn't I was scared to find out how it would be in a like English speaking team because again I was second guessing my English a lot of like even when I was playing FPL and when I was playing FPLC it felt weird or felt hard to do it but like it's just like in Sprout it's just like maybe after 1 month it feels normal and it feels naturally so it's like yeah, thinking back about it, I regret not trying it.
Yeah, because like it was like maybe at the start of Go and stuff like that, and 1.6 like it's fair enough because there were mostly national teams. But yeah, I think it's just interesting seeing someone only play in their region. But talking about you coaching and when you became a coach, I think I read something that you said that you wanted to start coaching and that was something that you wanted to do. Could you just talk to me a little bit more about why you entered that role?
I thought it was like as I think I had been a player for as you said like maybe 12 years, and it was like it was going up and down, up and down, up and down. But it was like in 1.6 I had a lot of success. Then there was sometimes in Go where success. But I was really never getting any organization to back what I was doing. So like I thought about it for some years, but there was not like any team out there who I got the offer from. And then finally Sprout came, and then I thought, okay, it's the perfect time to do it. So I had been thinking about it for years, but I just never had the chance to do it.
Yeah. So you said organizations to back you, was that in a playing side or is that a coaching side?
It was in a like for example like we had a lot of Danish organization throughout the years, but I was never in one of them. I never I was always outside them, and they were picking always like I was always losing my players to these organizations
Mm.
instead of actually being in the organization. And this is why it was always like it always felt hard to like it's like what I experienced in Sprout, I experienced as a player as well, and it was I knew I'm not gonna get out of the circle. So this is why I know that I have to go to coaching because they must think I'm not good enough as a player. They must think that is like there's something wrong with me or something like this, right? So yeah.
That must have been really rough as a player to constantly have players like taken off you. Um, yeah, that must like, was it just a constant cycle of like you'd bring someone up and then just poof, you'd have to restart?
I think again it was the motivation. Like I always had a passion for CS. I always just love to play CS. I love to like compete, and I always believed in myself to get the team back. But I think like coming from 1.6, you never really had like at least in my teams, even if we were a top 10 team back then, we never had really had any salary. I think the highest salary I ever got in in 1.6 was 200 euros towards the end, for a couple of months. So like I always just had this passion, and it was never like CS was never really about the money. It's more about for me it was more like having fun and then working on the side and having fun inside CS. This is why it was never like this is why I kept going basically, right? And this is why
Mm.
it was not that I could always find a reason to keep continue.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I know whenever I talk to someone who is from, like the 1.6 days or just kind of that era of Counter-Strike where salaries weren't a thing, um, they always have that mentality. Do you think if you hadn't come from a 1.6 era where you were lucky to get a salary, do you think you wouldn't have that as strong mentality as you do?
I think it would have. I think I would have done a lot, and I think I would not have been here today. I think I would have a job outside esport, because I think it was very tough. So yeah, I think if I didn't have this experience, doing all this stuff in 1.6, then it would not have been the same.
Yeah. Speaking about some of those players, because I think you've had in Denmark, like when you look through the people you've played with, you played with a lot of really good players. Is there potentially still though a part of you where you're like, okay, like I did give these guys a start, and do you maybe have that reputation in Denmark a little bit?
I think many of these guys there will always find their way because they are so good. I think
Mm.
I just give them a head start many times. And I think the Danish scene, there's even a lot of other guys in the Danish scene. They're not there anymore, but there was a lot of guys. I could sometimes play in the best 10 best Danish team and like pick up players, and then they could go further to Tricked or Flames or whatever was there. So I think most of the time you just give them a head start. Sometimes you pick up players who needs a lot of help. Sometimes you pick up players who just pick it up instantly. So I would not say it's a little bit hard to say what you actually do for them,
Yeah.
exactly, because I think they are just good enough to find their own way
Mm.
most of the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, because as you said, like you've been around the whole of Go, and you like if you just look at the games you play, like you jumped around a lot. Was there ever a roster that you can pinpoint, and you were like, oh, like that could have been the roster?
There was one roster where I always thought if we just got picked up, then we would have really we would have reached something. I played with Lomme, Nico, and Yuki. And who was the last guy? I think Holst. Holst is also another Danish guy like me in the Danish scene who was always going from team to team. But we played with these three guys, and this team was we were performing really good. We were even I think we won there was this lineup where we won against Simple 16-0 in one map. When he played with some of his friends. But I had this lineup. They got picked Yuki and Nico. They got picked up by Tricked, and before this we were performing really good. I thought, okay, these guys, they are really 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 good, and they're gonna be top players, as they
Yeah.
also became. But that lineup, I was I'm always thinking back about what if we got picked up by some organization? Then yeah.
Ah, that would have been cool. Do you know what happened to Yugi? Because like he just disappeared, didn't he?
I don't know. I always thought Yugi was actually one of my favorite players to play with. I don't know,
Mm.
and he was also really good when he joined Heroic and played there. I don't know, because I
Yeah.
always thought he's gonna be really really good. He was also
Yeah.
really really good at some point.
Yeah.
So
He seemed really solid.
yes, he was very good.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking about players that you like to play with, I think I mentioned previously raalz. If you look back, there's you played with him. I don't know when the exact start would have been, but like it's in 1.6. How did you guys just continuously keep on finding each other throughout your whole career?
I don't know. It's just something I think we always just liked each other. We are very good friends, and we understand each other on the server. So it's like every time one of us needed a player, or like obviously like he was a player in Sprout.
No, no.
When I got picked up as coach, he was the one who recommended me. So I don't know. It's just like we just like each other, and then it's easy to recommend each other. But yeah, I played in so many teams with him. I played him with him in my last CS:GO team. No, sorry,
Yep.
my last 1.6 team. I played with him in my first CS:GO team, and then I played with him in my last CS:GO team, and I played with him in my first CS2 team. So it's actually funny it worked out like this when you think
Yeah.
about it.
It is really like is there like a reason where like okay, so obviously you guys are good friends and stuff, but like is there a reason why like as a player you're like okay, I want to play with him, or also like I want to coach him?
I think like for me it's like I always felt I could trust him. I felt like he can do a lot on the server. Like he is this guy who does everything for the team. If you tell him to play one role, he will do it. If you tell him, can you buy Nada in a pistol, he doesn't even think about
Mm.
it. And he's a very good teammate. He builds the team spirit. Like it's like you cannot have bad team spirit with this guy. Because he's just an awesome guy.
Mm.
And then also why we picked him up for Sprout again in the like. He actually left us the first time. He
Yep.
was the IGL of Sprout, and he didn't want to be IGL anymore. Then he left for Flames. And then a year after, we needed a new IGL. And then he was up for it again. And last time we had a lot of success with him. So it just made sense again. Uh,
Mm. Was there a position when he was in that team at the end where it was like, if you look at the names, he was obviously the most experienced because he probably would have been in any team, but a lot more experienced than the others? Was there also a role of him being similar to you of like helping them grow as well?
yeah, he always comes with a like when we had like fairy sessions or when we had talking after games. He always had a lot of stuff to say, like he always tried to help people. He tried to help me. So he was also a part of improving players, like from day to day.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. And something that like just kind of it's just like this is quite a random question, but I guess it could fit you because you've been around the Danish scene for so long. I remember Manx once said to me that he thinks the reason why Denmark the issue Denmark have with AWPers is they don't have enough ego, and there's a real problem with just producing AWPers in Denmark because of like how the style of CS you guys play. Do you think that's a thing?
It could be. I never thought about it like this.
Mm,
I think the newer generation maybe there's some players who have a little bit more ego, but again, it's like when you come from Denmark, you try to play team CS, you try to play structured CS, you try to play
yeah.
uh, like stuff that makes sense on the server. So it could be this is the reason. I actually never gave it a thought because I always thought like we had Yuki, we had Device, we had Nico Odas, we had all these guys. So like, but when you actually go a little bit deeper and think about it, then you can clearly see there's a lack of opus. But then like, I just never gave it a thought, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was just a really random question though. I was like, oh, like you've seen so much, so there's maybe something there. But finally just kind of talking about some of your coaching stuff. What is next for you?
Next for me is getting a new coaching job. I wanna I wanna get back as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm just having some fun streaming. I'm trying to become a better coach, like by still understanding what we did in Sprout, what we could have done better, what we did good. Use it for my
Mm,
next project. Watching other teams, keeping up with the meta, keeping up with what people are doing. Um, so I'm just
yeah.
waiting to get back into action.
Do you have a preference of either Danish or international? Because you know, like obviously you've just gone international for the first time. Is that something you want to stick with?
Um, I think again, it's like I would love to become like playing a Danish team again. But thinking about it, it's probably easier to go into an international team, and it's
Mm.
probably easier to like build something or join a team and like do all the stuff. But I just wanna get back, and I just wanna. For me, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
I,
makes sense. Yeah, and so I just kind of want to talk about some of your like 1.6 days and some of your early playing days. I think it's just really interesting how like you said as well, like you had success, like you played at pretty much the biggest tournaments, and like I kind of want to get a better understanding of your place in the scene at that stage. But firstly, how did you actually get into playing Counter Strike? It's like 2006. You said you started playing. How did you even first get into like playing and competing in 1.6?
um, I was when I learned about Counter Strike, I was going to what do you call this? Like I was seeing the game in school, like when my friends was playing it in school. Like I was visiting some friends playing the game. Like this was maybe in like 2002, 2003. Just trying out the game. Never really think about it. I just always thought it was fun. Then I got my own computer. Maybe I cannot remember when. But like the first thing I did was
Yeah.
just installing Counter Strike and then play and play, and then I just played. What was it called back then? FFA, and I was just playing for fun. And then all of a sudden I got into the scene. Like I found this. I cannot remember if it was HLTV or if it was like the Danish news site. And then I actually understood there was a scene. And then from there I just uh, started following and started playing. And then I joined my first teams like maybe a month after. And yeah,
Yeah, because you had like a really like if you look at because yeah, you say you was like started kind of competing 2009. Like you had a really sudden rise in 1.6. Like is that fair to say that you kind of went from zero to then playing quite a high level quite quickly?
I think I only play like when I joined. I think my first really good team was Roskilde Ravens.
Mm. That's when you played
Um,
a major in, right?
uh, yeah, I think so. I I don't know which tournament you call majors back then, but like we played the best tournaments back then in Ravens. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
with Freeze and Snappy. It was Intel
yes,
Extreme Masters 4?
yes. We played. Yeah, we
Mm.
played like it was called Euro Finals and World Finals back then. But like I had we were playing in teams that you don't see them on HLTV. I was
Yeah.
always like you're playing the Danish division, grinding up. You back then there was a lot of Danish lanes, so everybody knew each other back then.
Oh, okay.
And like you cannot see this on HLTV, but like you cannot see this. I think you can see it nowhere. But there were so many Danish lanes where like you played against MCW back then. You played against SOA and all these teams, and it's like they knew you, like they knew you from these tournaments, and this is why like it was not that hard to catch up because you could actually sit behind like the best Danish players and just learn from them. Like you could sit behind Sonic, you could sit behind Acadia, and you like all these guys you looked up to for many years. So like it was back then, it was even easier to become like actually learn the game because you had it in front of you, and these Danish lanes, I think they were like one a month, if not even more.
In 2009, you had a LAN a month in Denmark.
Yes, I think so.
That's
Maybe not
insane.
9, but maybe 8, 7, like 7. There was so many like Danish lanes, like in these school gyms, and but it was not good prize money. It was like a small
Oh,
amount of prize money.
pennies. Yeah.
Yes. It
I
was
mean,
maybe
like,
like it was maybe
nothing
like
back then was
some
good.
of the lanes was just 2k, and all the good teams came. Uh,
Yeah.
but it was just because there was so much, like everybody knew each other, everybody loved going to these lanes. Like it was more like for the experience that you went, that not for the money.
Yeah.
But at least I cannot remember. It was one. It felt like one a month, and it felt like there
Yeah.
was actually a lot. Because I can remember, like, then you go in January, then you go in February, then you go in, like, and then there's Copenhagen Games. For example, fun fact about Copenhagen Games: I've been at every Copenhagen Games every year, because it's just, you do it for the experience.
Yeah.
So like back then it was like, the scene was close, like, and everybody knew each other. Everybody was like, you were screaming at each other on lane. Like, there was so much, like, even if everybody was friends, there was so much rivalry in, like, in the Danish scene.
Mm.
And like, again, there were so many good teams, because again, you learned from the best
Do you
every
kind
every
of miss that a little bit? Because like
Yeah.
now it's all like big and there's not
Yes.
that sense of community. Like, do you almost wish we could just teleport back and just go back to that, like off the land, like we play for fun. Everyone's friends, everyone's community.
I, Maybe not friends, but like, I wish that, like, that this, like, that you just bring your own computer, you go to a lane, like, you just, everybody is just there for the, like, to compete. It's not about, like, yeah, it's just, you're just having fun. Like, you, what is the word? Like, and then after, like, the tournament is done, like, you're just okay. Thank you for the tournament. Now we're gonna have a party together. Like, and then, like, I don't know. It's just, it's like, and there was also just this, that you could scream at each other and nobody would say anything. It was just default that everybody could scream at each other.
Mm.
But like these days, there were, like, I think there were a lot more, like, there was just a lot more passion in, like, than you see now, because like
Yeah.
nowadays when people scream, it's like, it feels like it's not okay. But like back then, it's like you had to scream, otherwise you would not be
Yeah.
accepted.
Yeah. That's what UK lands are like now. Because like we still have BYOCs, like, in pitch black, 38 teams, ranging from like Smooya to this level 4, and like it's a really fun environment, and like if like BYOCs are the best, like they're so much fun. um and yeah, so like, because so in Denmark in general, obviously now I feel like I'm speaking from someone who's not Danish, so I can't say for certain, but like Denmark's Counter Strike seems very popular and accepted, very much more than it is in like UK and Ireland. Was that the case when you started?
No, back when I started, I went to school, and then when I was playing in I think what was I think it was a Nexus. We were called a Nexus back then. Then we
Mm.
had to go to a tournament in China. Then I had to ask for a week off and say, I have to go play computer in China. And then he was just looking weird at me. So he didn't understand it. But like, now, like nowadays, it's, you could even teach in schools. I was even teaching in one school, and then like the mothers come to you and like ask about Counter Strike, and they're very very curious. Like, sometimes you meet like people on the street who either they know you, or like, when you talk about, like, when you talk about Counter Strike, it's just so open. Like, nobody is like judging you anymore. It's
Mm.
like it's very accepted. And like, from what I know, like, people actually want their kids to go to esport, and want to learn about esport. So
Damn.
like, it's not
Yeah,
like, obviously it's not this with every parent, but it's like, there's a lot of parents who are supporting.
yeah. What's it like for you going from playing at like 1.6 to now like teaching Counter Strike in a school?
It was very weird, because you were used to play, like, you were used to the guys you had, like, they actually knew about Counter Strike. When you're teaching in school, like, it's like they don't, like, they need to learn how to plant the bomb. They need to learn how to shoot with the mouse. They need to like the
Yeah.
very basic stuff. So you had to teach like some different stuff. But it's just another experience. But it's
Yeah. Mm. What was it like? So obviously you're kind of talking about Denmark and the scene you had in Denmark. What was it like internationally? Because you actually did go to like quite a few international tournaments.
say again.
What was it like? So like, because you spoke to me about the Danish scene and like you had those lands and stuff, but what was it like internationally during that like 1.6 period?
Um, it was, there was some like, this until like Europe finals, we were driving in car. Nowadays, normally you just fly. The day
Yeah.
before or 2 days before. But this event, we had to drive the day before in the evening, and we had to play the morning the next day because people had work. They could not get off work, so like they had to go the day. We had to go the day before. And then, for example, for this event, we came in the night because there were so many issues for some reason. We were lending a car that we could not lend, and then we had to go to Sweden to get another car because Malmö is next to Denmark.
Yeah.
And then like back then we came like 3 in the night, I think, and we slept at 5, and we had to play at 10 in the morning. And we were sleeping in a hostel, like where there was holes in the wall and stuff like this. And I also saw our old manager. He wrote on Twitter like we abandoned the car. So I cannot even remember this, but something we abandoned the car with a broken what is it called, the mirror on the side or something.
Yeah. Oh,
So
the
like there
wind.
was,
Yeah.
at least in the start, there was a lot of the same feeling that it's just like it feels like a little bit of a Björklane. Like some events had stages, but like some events it was just in a hall, like where like in a school hall where you were just put together, and you had these big CRT screens and you had like all this stuff. So like it was a little bit of the same feeling because you actually was sitting, could see the other guys. There was no like walls.
Mm.
There was not nothing. So you could just, again. It was like back then. It was also a lot of screaming.
Mm.
And then obviously further, like for example the China tournament, it was the first big experience where like you actually have fans in CS, and like you actually had, like it was back then you were signing your first autographs and stuff like this. So that was the real first like difference, like different feeling for me.
Yeah. What was it? Because you were quite like you were quite young. Like you were still in school. You said so. Like, what was that kind of experience of like now? If someone's young and I think gets into esports and is good, there's at least they understand what's going to go on because everything's, it's a bigger thing now. But for you going to somewhere like China when you were quite young, do it playing 1.6, which wasn't signed, that was too popular. What was it for you? Just being like, holy shit! Like, wow.
I guess it was just I don't know. Like it was only when we came to China where I actually realized, okay, this is something like a little bit more, because otherwise it was always just for fun. It was always just like I never thought it about as anything special because it was just Counter Strike and it was just like a hobby. So like, and it was, I don't I don't really know what to say. It's just
Yeah.
it was not, back then. It was not that special for me, at least.
Yeah, okay. When did for you esports start becoming like a little bit more legitimate, if that makes sense?
In Go, like when you
Just
saw all,
like, well, just like, yeah, sorry, was it Ingo? Yeah, maybe.
yeah, in Go, like when you saw all the tournaments, the big stadiums, all the stuff. That was where you realized it was different now. Even when I was in SK, we played like we played like I think we played the game. I cannot remember what it was called, Gamescom, I think. And there was also a big crowd like cheering, and so like then I realized, okay, it's actually different from now, and like people actually want to see you. People are coming here to see you play. Yeah.
Yeah, and so during this period when you were like in Denmark, were so what like was your position in Denmark? Because you had like you were playing a lot of these bigger tournaments internationally. So were you like regarded as one of the better teams in Denmark?
Yeah, we were always, not always, but like at least towards the end, we were the. There was also another team. I think with there was MCW, and then there was like sometimes like a player called Acadian. He was in MCW, but he was also out of MC. When he was out of MCW, we were fighting for being the second best team. Otherwise, we were always behind the MCW. It was only like towards the end they stopped playing. They actually disbanded, and then towards the end we were like we were one of the only teams left, and then we were the best team in Denmark. Playing like we played DreamHacks like the last CS:GO like 1.6 tournaments. But otherwise, we
Yeah.
were always behind MCW and fighting for third, second. I think back then, like Denmark was really good. They're still really good, but like back then they was really really good. Like we had many top teams.
What do you think happened with Denmark not being as good as it is then?
I think Denmark was good for a long time. I think it's only towards the last years like we kind of lost all our players. Like the players went into international teams. Like they are very split. All the players.
Hmm.
You don't have North any like the North players. They are split. For example, you only have
All
Astralis
gone.
now. You have Astralis now. Like you could probably make a team that could compete with the world's best, and I think Astralis is also on their way back. So it's like I think it's just because we lost a lot of players. We lost lost a lot of guys who was helping the talent. Like all these guys I talked about before, they either retired or like went to the international scene or analyst or like a lot of stuff. Like
Hmm.
nowadays you see. For me at least, I go into and like look at the Danish top 10 and then like, I don't know every player. Like back in the days, you knew every player. Like you knew some guys, but nowadays it's like it's very hard to recognize who is actually who and so I think like the biggest issue with the Danish scene is just that everybody kind of left it or retired.
Yeah, we have something really similar in the UK, but we don't have anyone. Like since 1.6, like everyone after 1.6 in the UK just kind of retired,
Yeah.
which was really annoying because it kind of screwed our scene. But speaking just kind of and wrapping up this interview and speaking about the end for you in 1.6, you actually like you played pretty much the final 1.6 tournament. It was a DreamHack in Bucharest. You were in the finals. So it was a pretty good end to 1.6. Were you confident when you moved in to go?
No, I actually thought in the start I would not play.
Oh,
Because I thought Go kind of not like it was nothing like 1.6, and I think a lot of 1.6 players had the same feeling they would not keep playing.
mm,
Because again, it was more like back then, like you thought about it for passion, you thought about it for fun, and Go didn't look that fun in the start. So like I think it also took me like I think after like 2 months I actually gave it a chance, or like 1 month, then I gave it a chance. Yeah, so I was like,
and then here you
Uh,
are.
yeah, and then but like in the start, I really thought I'm not gonna play, and the whole team also like um, I think raalz played a little bit. Some of the other guys, some of the older guys, they just straight up retired. I think also you saw Snappy, he was also retired for like some time.
Hmm?
But some guys they went in. So this is like I kind of missed the start of Go a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think that screwed you a little bit with like progressing early on?
I think it screwed me, and I was not that motivated in the start. I didn't really thought I would have a career. Like we made a team, but I really thought, okay, we're not gonna do a team. Like I'm not
Mm,
gonna be something in this game. I'm not gonna do anything in this game. So it was like I was not trying to learn the game. I was just more okay. I just play because I miss playing one like from 1.6, and then I really not try to learn the game. Like I think thinking back at it, if I was actually dedicated in the start and actually trying to become something, then maybe it would have been different. Because yeah, you never know what could have happened. But like maybe I would
yeah.
have gotten a chance to be
Mm,
in a bigger team.
yeah. I mean, you did play under like you played for like SK for instance, which was like a really cool. That was like a cool banner for you to play on under, right? Because it was like SK, the like legendary name. They had more Swedish players. They went Danish. You replaced Hunden as an IGL, which was quite like a big IGL at the time. But that would have been like a bigger team for you, right, when you were playing in 2015.
Yeah, I think it was also the biggest team I played for in Go. To be honest,
Mm,
but it was like back then it was like coming back into the scene. Like I was playing in other teams, but it was like coming back, like playing with Freeze again. So it was just nice to feel like being a part of the big events again.
mm. Yeah. And can I just wrap up, 'cause we have been here for so long. Again, it's been really interesting being able to pick your brain. Just when you were because you've mentioned the move from 1.6 to Go, like the game wasn't enjoyable, all that stuff, and a lot of people have said that's about it. That's similar to what's happening with Go and CS2, where people were like, "Oh, like CS2 is going to kill the game." Do you see a lot of comparisons between those two changes?
No, from my perspective, I actually like playing CS2. Maybe it's different for me because I don't play that much. But I actually don't think it's that bad. I think there's the cheating, there's the bugs. But I like it's something new. Go was a really good game, but I think CS2 also have a lot of good stuff, and they actually has a lot of potential, being really good and even being better than Go. So like like back then it felt like two different games, but this at least feel a little bit like the same, and there's a lot of stuff that is actually the same.
Yeah.
So I just think it's like people are just not. It's more whining than it's actually hate for the game.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of complaining, and then the minority outweighs the majority in some cases. But Barry, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. A real legend of the Danish Counter-Strike scene, and I can't wait to see where you end up next on coaching. I think it's going to be very exciting to see what your next project is, and I wish you the best of luck in some of your downtime you have now, and just some of the time that you can actually relax after your really crazy officials you had at the end of last year. Just so much Counter-Strike, and enjoy continuing to be a full-time streamer. I've been enjoying watching some of your casts of the games and some of the Face It pugs. But yeah, Barry, thank you so much for joining me, and to everyone, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to tune in next week for another interview on the Insite channel. Thank you.